Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. We caught up with John McConnell. He's the CEO at Victoria Gold. This is a follow-up from a conversation we had at the end of January, which I also recommend that you watch. We talk about Q1 numbers, heap leach process, and how the recoveries are projected to go between now and the end of the year, guiding 180,000 ounces. We talk about the fact that that will generate 100 million bucks of free cash. What's it going to do with it? And we answer a whole ton of questions sent in by all the viewers and subscribers. Thank you very much for that, guys. Made my work easy. And if you want our thoughts and opinions on John's answers, the company itself, you can find that at cruxinvestor.com/club, where you can also find detailed company reports and analysis. We've got commentaries from experts from around the world on a variety of companies and commodities, including gold. We've got training courses on there. We also do summaries of all the interviews that we do, just to save you some time, because we know you're busy people. And most importantly to us, we've got a thriving community of investors sharing their thoughts and ideas with each other in a nice, friendly and safe environment, free from judgment, trolling and abuse. Now, if that sounds nice to you, and I hope it does, go and join them at cruxinvestor.com/club. And we'd love your feedback too. So give us a like, we appreciate it. Leave your thoughts below, we'll get back to everyone. And if you want to see precisely what we talked about today, do take a look in the description below. John, how are you, sir?
I'm very well, despite COVID. Everything's going well for us.
Well, you say that, but you're self-jabbing, aren't you? You guys have got your own COVID supply on site.
Yeah, no, and we've vaccinated probably 75% of the workforce now, so that's going well too.
Good effort, fantastic.
And that's with the first shot, and we started doing the second shot to the crew this week. So as crews rotate in and out, we're now getting them their second shot.
Hey, so how do you wangle that? Is that because you're like some sort of essential industry, or the government just need the help?
I think the Yukon Medical would have come in and done them, but we convinced them that, we had the people on site that could do it, and we're pretty efficient, and, so... We're doing our own.
Good, lads. I like the idea of that. Hey, well, look, we caught up at the end of January, and we had a great conversation around sort of stacking and winter season and how you kind of work a way around that. But you've come out with some numbers recently, so I want to sort of get an update on the Q1 numbers, but maybe continue that conversation and sort of see what you're doing on the exploration front. But tell you what, before we do, and I will recommend people go to the link we'll put below to that previous conversation. So I thought it was fantastic, the way you kind of outlined what the company was up to. But give us that 1 minute overview of the business for people new to this story, and I'll pick it up from there.
Yeah, Victoria's a public company, trades on the Toronto Stock Exchange. Over the past 10 years, we've been developing the Eagle deposit in the Yukon, and now we're a single asset producer, currently guiding that we'll produce 200,000 ounces of gold this year, but we have an internal project to take that up to 250,000 ounces per year by 2023. So very exciting times.
Okay, so we're in production now, which is good news, and you've got a ways to go in terms of ramping up by the end of this year. Because what did you produce in Q1?
In Q1, we were about just over 26,000 ounces of gold. But I do want to emphasize that it's always been the plan that we don't stack during the coldest months of the year. So we curtailed stacking in early January, but the weather was, pretty good. I thank COVID, and we were able to resume stacking in March, and we had a great first quarter. But because we didn't stack for 2 months, gold production is down, and until we go to year-round stacking, our production will always be skewed to the second half of the year.
Right. Okay. So what I shouldn't be doing is multiplying Q1 by 4 and getting an annual number of 100. I shouldn't be doing that.
No.
Right.
No. We're still bang on with our guidance of somewhere between 180,000 and 200,000 ounces of gold per year.
Right.
This year.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the stacking. Let's pick up on where we left off last time out, because we did talk about the winter season, and things are harder there. In terms of the stacking component, and obviously the recoveries aren't there, and it doesn't work as efficiently. So, but you mentioned a brace just a second ago about year-round stacking. So, what have you got to do between now and year-round stacking to get to that point where you can do that?
No real modifications to the equipment or anything. It's really just learning what the impacts of cold weather are. And we've got 2 winters under our belt now, and we think we have a pretty good understanding. And as I said, we got back stacking in March of this year, so a 2-month non-stacking period. We think next year we'll probably reduce that to 1 month, and then the following year be at year-round stacking.
But what exactly are you testing for? Okay, you know what the weather's like. You can look back historically and go, we know the weather's like. Is it how the agents work in the stack? Is it how the ore responds? Is it the recovery rates? What are the things you're looking at?
Yeah, it's just, the weather doesn't impact the leaching. But what you don't want to do is freeze a layer in the leach pad. So that's where we're careful, and we go back if we've been on an area and we're a little bit concerned about it. We put a dozer on there and we rip it all up to make sure that once we add solution, we get good permeability. So it's, as I say, it's just being careful. The other thing we're careful about is, equipment breaks at minus 35 or below. So, we have a rule on site that we don't run mobile equipment when the temperature is below minus 35. We didn't see any of that this year. But the previous year, I experienced my first time with minus 50. So you can get those really cold days. But this year, I don't think the temperature went below minus 35.
Right. Okay. So you've got a better sense. You've got 2 seasons under the belt. You've got a better sense of how it all works. And it's going to give you a bit more confidence next year. And then, I guess, ultimate confidence the year after that, right? So
correct.
You're guiding 200,000. You've got an internal program which is going for 250, right? So
yep.
What are you saying to the team? What are the things that you're putting in places to make sure that you can deliver that? I'm just sort of intrigued on how you set yourselves up for success.
Yeah, so, the first thing is to get to year-round stacking. That adds, 30,000 ounces per year. The second thing is there's a shear zone that runs through the center of the deposit. And no matter how we adjust the blasting, that shear zone breaks very fine material. So we think that's a real opportunity, and that we can screen off that fine material and direct transport it to the leach pad, and that gives us more capacity through the crusher. So that's the kind of technical thing we're working on right now. Where do we put this screen plant? Is it ahead of the primary crusher? Is it between the primary and secondary? And how do we get that screened off material onto the overland conveyor and over to the leach pad? And, we're working with Hatch Engineering right now to put together a plan and a feasibility study on that. And, by the end of the year, we'll be making some announcements, and there may be a small amount of capital to do that in 2022.
Right. Okay. So it's as simple as that for you. You haven't had to.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Interesting. In fact, you mentioned a phrase that can set me off here. So we've had a lot of questions sent in, most of them around the pads and how they work, the permeability and how it works. And, you've given us some clues. You don't want sort of frozen layers in there because that's hard to basically it just stops the permeability component. But you mentioned the phrase there, which kind of interests me because it was slightly. I thought an interesting question to send in is around how are you monitoring possible shear failure and sliding at the base of high sloped heap leach that you will be stacking. Is that a concern for you?
Well, of course, but we've mitigated that risk. We build the leach pad to design, and the design has been reviewed by independent engineers, and it's not as steep as perhaps some of the pictures show. This is a valley leach, and we keep stepping the leach pad up the valley. So, it's not like there's a sheer wall there. So I think maybe some of your viewers may be misinterpreting the photos they've seen. It's not as steep as one would think. And, the key is build to design and, monitor it.
Right. Okay. I think it'd be really cool if you guys put out a little bit more information around these heap leach pads and how you are delivering them, because the people are interested. I think there's a lot of people who are interested in technically how it happens. Not catch you out. I don't think it's about catching you out. I think it's about how do these guys go about engineering this? It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yep, you'll do it. Or yep, it's interesting.
Oh yeah, no, we can do that. But I would add that it's not uncommon, these leach pads. There's hundreds of leach pads around the world. And one of the biggest I've seen is Kinross's Fort Knox leach pad in Alaska, which we based a lot of our designs on.
Okay. So I'm leaping around here a bit because you keep setting me up. Talking of it's not unusual. Again, another really interesting question sent in. I'm having all my work done for me by our subscribers this week. It's fantastic. Someone's saying they noticed in one of your releases that you you stated that you're not adhering to IFRS standards in terms of reporting parameters around the ASIC. Why not?
Interesting question. And certainly if my CFO is watching, he'll be cringing that I'm answering a question related to accounting. But, if you go to our MDA, we spell out how we calculate ASICs. And it's no different than every other gold company. And everybody refers to the World Gold Council document that I think came out in 2013. And we follow those. Now, one of the issues is there are some gray areas around reporting of exploration expenses and things like that. But, we lay it out in detail in our MD&A.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I think it's fairly standard.
And, if you look at the language, it's probably identical to every other gold producer in Canada.
Just want it from your lips, despite what your CFO may think. Okay. So let's get back to the project. Okay. So, and I think another observation is that the strip ratio seems to have changed a bit, or is it as planned in the mine plan?
The strip ratio is as per the mine plan. I can see why, people, when they see feasibility study numbers, they're always looking at life of mine, not per year. And so it's always been that it would be higher in the early years and then it goes down in the later years. So, it's as per plan.
Right, so it's like 2-to-1 now, but over life of mine, it'll be 1-to-1. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it gets down below 1-to-1.
Right, okay. So no surprises there for you. In fact, are there any surprises in any of this so far? What sort of stood out as a small fire that you need to put out?
Yeah, I think the one positive surprise has been on the ore. We had a hard boundary between the granodiorite intrusive, which contains the gold, and the metasediments that host the deposit. And we just assumed that metasediments held no gold, and we drew a hard line there that they were all waste. We're actually finding that there's some leakage from the granodiorite into the metasediments, and we're probably picking up a few hundred ounces of gold in metasediments that we hadn't anticipated.
Seed grades are a little bit higher than you'd anticipated originally, but you think over life of mine they'll be as expected.
And that'll reduce as we get deeper into the deposits. We don't mine metasediments at all, but it's a nice positive in the first couple of years.
So I guess likewise then, because obviously the deeper you go, the more expensive it is, right? So, but when you start off, you're refining the process, you're trying to, understand the heap leach kind of process. So the cost can start a little bit higher and reduce over time. But as you go deeper, you're going to see movement in the price there as well, the cost, should I say.
Well, as I said, the real driver on open pit minings is the strip ratio. So as the strip ratio goes down, our costs per ton of ore will drop as well.
Okay. And the last kind of segue question, I promise this one. Banyan Gold suggesting they can use Victoria Gold for milling. What's the chances? I don't want to cause a family rift, but what's the chances?
Well, we're not a milling operation, for one. We're a heap leach operation, so big difference. They are, probably as the crow flies, 30 kilometers to the south of us. I would say there's potential if their ore is heap leachable that you could have a leach pad at Ormac and pump pregnant solution from that leach pad to our ADR. But I would think it would probably in the end make more sense to have their own ADR there.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, that was the last question thrown in from the audience here. Come back to this guidance for this year. You're talking 180 to 200. What are the things which would prohibit you from delivering on that? Why would you stop to just reassess the situation? What are those possibilities that things happen that you don't expect, or do you think it should be plain sailing from now on?
Well, I can't name any one thing. There's always, acts of God that we refer to, but I think those things are very unlikely. I'm still personally concerned about COVID, although, as I said, we vaccinated, 75% of our workforce now, but, you hear all these stories about variants and COVID could still be a big issue for us going forward. We're dealing with it right now, and, we've been very diligent in our protocols, and we continue to be. And as a result of that, we haven't had a single case of COVID at Eagle. But, these variants, certainly in British Columbia and Ontario, they're in the third wave, and the number of cases have spiked right up. The deaths have spiked up. So that's a concern for me as a CEO.
Right. Okay. I guess what I'm trying to get to is, right, your valuation is about $850 million at the moment, and you're just, starting the production process. You've got a bit of value to kind of backfill there, and I'm trying to understand if you are going to be able to hit the numbers that you need to hit this year, and because the numbers that you're forecasting, obviously pretty impressive in terms of volume, in terms of life of mine, the margins, the costs, etc. And I'm just trying to wonder, can you do it?
Well, there's no reason we can't do it. And if gold prices stay where they are, I think the more impressive number than ounces of gold is the free cash flow that we generate. And, should be well over 100 million this year at current gold price. So
what do you do with it? There's another question.
Our big focus this year is going to be paying down debt.
Right.
I'm old fashioned. I don't think my father ever had debt in his life, and that's been impressed upon me as I grew up. So, I would like to get our debt down as much as possible this year. And, we've started to cast an eye at other opportunities, but, we won't grow for the sake of growing. Different shareholders have, suggested to me there's a risk being a single asset company. And I get that, but I don't want to take on a second asset unless it's accretive for our shareholders. But we are starting to look around at other opportunities.
How much debt have you got outstanding?
About 150 million US right now.
Okay.
And I'd like to get that down below 100 million by the end of the year.
Right. Okay. You've got some exploration planned as well. You've obviously got Eagle Deep and Raven. How many meters are you aiming for this year? What's the plan?
Yeah, so we have two programs. One is local. It's drilling off Eagle at depth. So the current pit goes to about 350 meters below surface. We want to understand what's below us. And so we're drilling roughly 10,000 meters in 14 holes and looking at the deposit down to 850 meters. So, we want to understand what's there. The second program is regional. We have a new discovery called Raven out to the east, and it's very exciting. We've had a couple summers of exploration out there. We've drilled some 40 holes. It's right on surface. We've, have a strike length to over 750 meters now, and it's open in all directions and at depth. So we're going to drill about 14,000 meters there this summer. We started to open the road this week, and we'll hopefully get drilling by the end of April. Personally, I think there's another mine out there.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll hear more as you get into the drill program proper. So just kind of finish up, because there's a kind of quick update from when we spoke in January. I think that's the substance of the business and the team and the plan is in that interview. And like I said, I'll put the link and we'll put so people can go to that. So they should watch that. So just finally on the kind of update component, your expectations for a number of ounces produced in Q2, Q3, Q4, how does it ramp up? What's that curve look like?
Yeah, I think, I haven't provided any guidance in terms of quarterly, but if you look at our quarterly production in 2022 and prorate that to, mid guidance of 190,000 ounces, you can pretty quickly figure it out, and it'll certainly be skewed to H2.
Right. So, but skewed to, so there is a slight curve. It's not flat.
No, it's not. It's not even a curve. It's
a line.
Nice line increasing.
Excellent. Okay. Well, we'll look out for all of that as it comes through. I like the sound of the exploration program at Raven particularly. It sounds pretty exciting stuff there. Stay in touch. Let us know how things progress. We'll be watching.
All right. Great. Good talking to you, Matt.